Here we go. Leaders still eat last. So this is all about your role as a leader in the organization and how you put your employees first so that we can be the employer of choice. So in the video, Simon Sinek talked about the golden circle, where the why is at the center of everything we do, the how surrounds that, and the what is the exterior. Now, the important thing about the golden circle that I like to indicate is that if we were looking at a ball, we would only see the outside. So we very often get trapped into this mindset of really focusing on the what, really focusing on the task at hand, our daily interactions, our tactics, and things like that. Really get back to the center of everything and why we do what we do. So that's what we're going to spend some time on today. What we're going to do is start with defining some of our key terms. Then we're going to connect goals with purpose. And we're going to talk about engaging employees with their work. So what is the purpose of defining key terms? Well, before I get to that, I want to tell you a little story. Those of you that know me know that I'm a native to the Triad, a native to Central North Carolina, and both of my parents have lived their lives, and they're both pretty old. And I like to tell the story that one time my mom was driving through Durham. She had a cousin that lived down there, and they were best friends growing up, and they always spent a lot of time together. So she was driving down to visit one of her friends in Durham, and she saw 3 people doing some construction. She asked, "Hey, what are you folks doing?" And the first person said, "I'm laying bricks." And she said, "Okay, that's not very interesting, but sure, whatever." So she went to the next guy and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm building a wall. I'm building a strong wall. It's going to be a tall wall. This is very important work." She said, "All right, that's slightly more interesting than just laying brick, but it's all." And then she went to the last guy and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm building Duke Chapel. This is going to be an icon of North Carolina. People are going to recognize it from all over the world. The work I'm doing matters, not just today, but for the future." So when we talk about those key terms, that's what we're talking about, is how to distinguish the why from the how and the what, and how our key terms of vision, mission, goals, strategy, and tactics and measures support that. But we'll come back to that in just a second. I want to first ask you to use the whiteboard here to define the term vision. So we know our vision is to be the nationally recognized choice for patients, healthcare partners, and employees in creating life-changing possibilities. But what does a vision really mean to us? I see a lot of concepts of where we're going or our direction, our destination. I love this idea of the ultimate impact, like the long-term statement of what we want to achieve. This is really excellent. Great work, everybody. So in our next whiteboard, I'm going to ask you to define a mission. Define the mission. Now, this is going to be a little bit different from vision. I see a lot of how we achieve our vision, our purpose. I love that. Our purpose or our calling, the map to the vision, our plan for the future, how we will get there. That's really awesome, how the vision will be achieved. So there's a lot of intersection here between vision and mission. And I love that people are making the connection between the two. They're different, but they really rely on each other in order to work. So in our next whiteboard, I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different. I'm going to ask you to state the difference between a strategy and a goal. So we use these terms a lot. We have strategies, we have goals, we have tactics, and sometimes we use them interchangeably and it becomes a little bit confusing. So I want you to state what you believe is the difference between a strategy and a goal. Lots of great feedback here. I love this one that says, strategy is how you accomplish, goal is where you want. Strategy is the action we take to reach a goal. A strategy is broad, a goal is more specific. How long should it take to achieve a strategic plan? This is excellent. Lots of great responses here. Most people are picking the 1 to 3 year range, which is pretty accurate. But the other folks, you're not necessarily wrong, because there are some strategies we can achieve in the short term. And there are some strategies that we'll be working on until the end of time. If you think about the strategy of becoming the employer of choice, that's something we'll constantly have to go back to, constantly keep working on and keep revisiting. If you talk about becoming the partner of choice, we can achieve that with a specific hospital in a very short amount of time just by making some small adjustments to how we accept referrals. So you're all right. It can be 6 to 12 months. It can be 1 to 3 years. That's mostly where the strategies fit. And it can be forever. So in that 1 to 3 year range, we're really looking at, we work on this strategy for a couple of years, but then we look back and say, how are we doing? How are we making progress? Are we doing all the right things? And I want to kind of zoom out for a second and think about this concept of our cultural framework. We often talk about how culture will eat strategy for lunch, meaning our culture has to support our strategy or it will destroy our strategies. So let's take a moment and just reflect on the idea of who we are versus what we do. So lots of great input here on who we are and what we do. I see things like under who we are, I see things like provider of choice, partner of choice, caretakers, trusted choice, caring solutions, I think what was meant to go there. Provider of choice, a community leader, yes. Our values of caring and our values of integrity, that's really awesome. What we do, we provide care and services to people in their homes and our retail locations. That is perfect. We do direct patient care. We provide services. What we do is our objectives and our goals. I love that. That's putting really into perspective that what we do is the kind of gritty stuff and who we are is the more conceptual stuff. One person wrote here, vision and mission. So I would almost wonder if who we are is our vision and what we do is our mission, meaning that those two things are connected and rely on each other, but they are slightly different in that our mission is the actual work that we do or what we get paid for, and our vision is how we want to show up in that work. So our why is at the core of everything that we do, and that is our vision and our mission. The how surrounds that and helps us to achieve that vision and mission through our strategies and our goals. And the what we do is the tactics and the measures. So keeping this in mind, part of your pre-work was to bring an example of a tactic, a goal, and a strategy that you use on your team, which shows an example of a goal, a tactic, and a strategy. So I want you to start thinking about this from the most micro to the most macro, or what we do on the daily basis, what's our daily transactional work. That would be in the goal category. Our tactic is the stuff that we measure over weeks or months, and then our strategy is in the long range, connected to our vision, what we look at over the very long term. So an example, we're in the midst of an employee engagement survey right now. An example of the goal is that I'm going to work with individual teams to create action plans for improvement. The tactic that surrounds that goal is to execute and act on the employee engagement survey, and all that supports the strategy of becoming the employer of choice. All right, so I'm going to start digging into some of these goals, tactics, and strategies. COP compliance will help us to reduce leakage. That's a great thing to do. And reducing leakage helps to support our financial vitality. So see how those three things are connected? Increase COP compliance, reduce leakage, and exceed vitality. That's what I mean when I say connecting the micro thing or the daily work with the broader work that connects to the strategy. I like this: work directly with staff to proactively be more efficient. There was something I saw that supported efficiency. So let's take create file feeds in Kronos. Okay? So file feed in Kronos is really a goal, right? That connects with working directly with staff to determine how to be more efficient. And that efficiency helps us to grow our contribution margin. There's always a connection between what happens on a daily basis with what happens in the tactical realm and the strategy that connects to that. So that puts it back into the context of how all these three things connect. Our why is our vision and our mission. The how is that strategy and goal that gets us there, and then our tactics and our measures represent the what. So in order to really put all this into the context of the strategic plan, it's important to look at our history or how we got there. But to achieve something different, we've got to do something different. We are definitely an action-focused organization, and that's evident in previous strategic plans where there were lots of actions and lots of accountable people. Now, that wasn't necessarily bad or not necessarily good. It's just different than what we've got in front of us today. What we had before was a list of actions, which is great, yet it can also be limiting in that those actions are only, quote, the right actions. Once we determine what the actions are, we're kind of trapped in that idea as these actions must be the right actions because we picked them. What we are left with are actions specific to a branch or even a business segment, and we don't really open the door for innovation and collaboration. Now, naturally, this picture is not to scale or intended to reflect the actual actions, but it does kind of indicate to us how miscoordinated actions can lead to duplications or even silos. Fulfilling the vision means understanding the vision, yet the vision doesn't always tell us how to get where we're going. When we talked about the vision and the mission, they work together, but the vision doesn't always tell us how to get there. For example, if you're looking at a blueprint, it's not always evident where to lay the first brick, right? So in creating the strategic plan, Joel led our executive and senior leaders through an exercise that involves starting with the vision, beginning with the why, and working through the strategies and the goals. That way, the work we did differently was to lead through the vision to align our strategy with our mission. The effort was to make something concise and meaningful to everyone within the organization. We tried to create something that was portable and relatable, something that was a guide or a mirror that we could hold up against our work at any point and determine the priority of the actions related to each other, especially where we have competing priorities. Now that that's created out of our strategic plan, we have 6 categories that support the strategic plan: the employer of choice, the choice of patients, the choice of partners, growth, value, and financial vitality. So how does having 6 categories allow us to work differently? One that stands out to me immediately is that it demonstrates that we have motives beyond simply being profitable. That is so true. We have a vision and a focused vision that leads us into the future. I love that it keeps us organized. It makes for a more cohesive business model with actions associated with goals. Several people pointed out that it provides focus and a reasonable scope. I love that. It focuses on a plan and organization. Something else that these 6 categories do are that they also leave room for innovation and to create space to do something differently. It gives us space to look back at that strategic plan in 6 months and say, is what we're doing really leading us in the right direction, or do we need to change and do something completely different? So I love that we really captured the duality here between focus and scope, as well as room for innovation and changing goals as necessary. So as managers, you really fulfill the role of the field architect working with the folks on the long-term project. So does every bricklayer have to know how to read a blueprint? No, not necessarily. And does every architect have to know how to lay a brick? Not really. The strategic plan works like a blueprint. It is a tool for leaders to use to create purpose in the work of our employees. In the book, Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, he speaks about how true leaders view leadership as a responsibility, not a rank, and how it is not about being in charge, but about taking care of those in your charge. Taking care of those in our charge is about showing our employees the value in their work they may not necessarily or immediately see. Just like the bricklayer versus the chapel builder, our stories help to draw those connections, and the story can be about how we helped someone find their dream job, or maybe it's a story about how we created a new opportunity for a patient who had no hope, or how we worked with a hospital to create a life-changing possibility. But before we get into stories, let's talk about this story. It's the idea of the carrot and the stick. It's about the idea between incentives and punishments, that's right. So sometimes we think about this as leaders, but what we leave out when we think about the carrot and the stick is all the things that can happen in between. It doesn't have to be the golden carrot, and it doesn't have to be a written warning. There's lots of stuff that we can do in between around coaching and recognition and appreciation. And I often hear the story when I talk about recognition and appreciation, where managers say, why should I provide recognition just because someone is doing their job? So when we think about this, it leaves out this whole idea that recognition helps to connect people with their work. People see the value in their work when somebody tells them, hey, you did this for us, you helped that patient, and that supports our vision of being the partner of choice, because that patient is going to go tell all their friends that advanced home care is amazing. So if we're missing the recognition, or what I like to call it, recognition purgatory, how am I supposed to know that what I'm doing connects to the importance of my work if I'm not hearing that from somebody? As a manager, that's where it really comes into our care for the people that we are in the charge of, that really makes a difference for them. So let's talk through the scenario real quick. The importance of what we recognize and what we don't. So if I'm an employee and I exceed my expectations and then nothing happens, well, the next time I have an opportunity, I might do a little something extra, yet nothing happens. So the next chance I have, I just do what I have to do, yet still nothing happens. And then maybe I do something wrong and somebody's having a serious conversation with me. What type of engagement level would you describe this employee at? I am proud to do my best work for a company that I love. I'm glad I can help people. I do enough to get my job done. I'm sleepwalking, or I'm just over it. Excellent. So we've had several people say, I do enough to get my job done. Several people say, I'm just over it. I think any one of these would be correct for an employee who's caught in recognition purgatory or waiting for that golden carrot, when there's a lot of work that we do on a daily basis that really supports our mission and our vision as a company. If you think about this idea of recognition and rewards, remember that leaders still eat last. Consider your leadership as a responsibility rather than a rank. It's not about being in charge, but about taking care of those in your charge. I like to remind us that everything is a choice, and not doing something is a choice. Choosing not to recognize those in your charge is a choice to place them in recognition purgatory, where your results as a manager will be mediocre at best. People connect with the human aspect of what we do. We're not just making string here, okay? We are healing people, real people, live people with families, dogs, hobbies, and dreams. Let this strategic plan be a guidepost that helps you to connect that story with the work that your team does every day. We want everyone at Advanced Home Care, every single employee, to know that they are not just laying brick. They are building a future for our patients, our communities, and most importantly, for each other. Also, consider the relevance of the story. Where my story may be very impactful to me, consider what's impactful to your employees. Consider what makes them feel connected to their work. So here's the request. Tell the story, your story, not my story, but your story. Carry the strategic plan with you. It is a tool to connect the task with the purpose. Find evidence of the strategies in your own goals. We did that little exercise earlier, so I will help you with that. I'll tell you about that in a second. and celebrate all those achievements that contribute to the strategic plan. Don't wait until 3 years from now when we achieve one of our strategies. Celebrate that success in the goals and the tactics along the way, so people start to see the importance and the value of the connections that they make. The other request is to share how your work connects to the strategic plan. This is a contest, okay? So each team is charged with creating a strategic plan tagline. Use your tagline to share how you connect with your work through any medium you choose, up to 2 minutes long. It can be a video, a visual, a narrative, a song, a poem, anything that you want to create that connects the strategic plan with the work that you do. You'll have until April 13th for your submissions, and guidelines will be distributed to all department managers by March the 28th. But you can start brainstorming now. When we distribute those guidelines on March the 28th, I'm also going to include a grid similar to what you did in the leadership forum today that helps to categorize those goals from the tactics and the strategies, so you can start to link the chain together or connect the dots for the employees. I really appreciate your contributions, and if you have any questions about how to embark on these requests of connecting strategies to goals and tactics so that people can find the purpose in their work, feel free to reach out to your manager or me. We are here to support you in this. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.